Hello there, viewer. Today I'm going to make the case that Nintendo hates money. I know that's a bit of a sensationalist claim, but I do believe I have some fairly good evidence that this has been a long-term direction or goal rather than just a one-off. So let's start with their approach to hardware. Whenever a new console comes out, they consistently undersupply. So to the extent that retailers are free to price gouge to any extent they want. You're getting Wii's and Nintendo 64s and everything charged sometimes up to double what they were. Now, granted that they can't be expected to predict the future the first time, or maybe a couple times it should have taken them more, and maybe if there was a big difference it would make sense, but this is every time. And you're telling me they don't have a team to change that? They don't learn from their mistake every single time? I mean, let's take a look at this, shall we? So we've got Nintendo warns of Wii shortages. We've got Nintendo N64 hit by shortages. We've got the Wii U hit by shortages. We've got the DS. Hey, guess what? That was hit by shortages. Yeah, you can probably see how this is going. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Take a look at the Amiibos, for example. You realise that something that sells for 11 quid when it's new is now going 40 quid. I mean, they are not making enough to sell them, and people are willing to pay nearly 4 times the price that they sell new, and yet Nintendo don't have any contingencies to back that up still. I mean, okay, let's go back to here. Right, so this is the price of a Captain Falcon Amiibo from Amazon. This is the price that it would have been if they were still back in stock. What? Hold on a tick. Yeah, it's the same with the GameCube adapter. Yeah. These stories, they're not one-offs. It is a constant trend with Nintendo to massively undersupply their hardware. How does that make any sense for a company that actually wants to sell things and make money? If people are gouging for $90 for something that costs $20, Nintendo's not seeing that money. I can only think it is because they hate money. Think of Occam's razor. Can you think of a simpler solution, a reason they would consistently undersupply? I can't think of a better reason to undersupply. I can't think of any other reason that they wouldn't create enough supply to basically take advantage of the market that is evidently there. There's not just hardware either. It's also software. Take Pandora's Tower, for example. It's 45 quid from Amazon. It launched at 40 quid and the price has never gone down. So, in other words, it has gained value because they didn't print enough of them. Okay, then that's not even the end of it. Let's take Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah, sorry, just checking. Let's take Xenoblade Chronicles. That is now, if you're lucky, 72 quid. The price has never gone down. Kirby Air Ride is similar. You can get it if you want to pay £200 or some used ones for 60. Conker's Bad Fur Day, again, is literally unavailable most places. Maybe you can get it for 85. Metroid Prime Trilogy, £200 is the Amazon trying to entice you price. Apparently it's over here for 50. Other than Metroid Trilogy, which they have re-released in a digital format, you can't tell me that they're, successfully supplying the demand. So why? They see zilch for these massively inflated prices, and instead their customers get gouged and have a bad experience because they've been gouged. But it doesn't end there. Take emulation and the piracy scene, for example, Nintendo have had the world's slowest pace re-releasing their games, and they only use it on hardware that massively outpaces the requirements for emulating those games. So, for example, the Wii U will do SNES and N64. The 3DS doesn't do Game Boy Advance games unless you're an ambassador. It will only do Game Boy and Game Boy Color games because that's what they say, and then they release at the world's slowest pace. So, while they dally not releasing more than about 10% of their library at best, pirates have a legitimate excuse to download the ROMs. Whether or not it is legitimate in the eyes of Nintendo, of course it isn't, but within their own eyes they can justify being able to download the ROMs in order to play the games they love. I mean, there is no actual way they can pay Nintendo for the privilege, because Nintendo haven't released it, and if they were to buy a second-hand copy, Nintendo don't get any more of the money. So they might be able to pay a reseller many times what the game originally sold for, but Nintendo won't see any of it. So probably in their minds, what's the point? I can understand that argument even if I don't agree with it. And it's not even like it would be difficult to build a generic high-level emulator, for example, on the Wii U and just entirely emulate the older consoles with specific patches per game. That's what HLEs usually use, and you're tweaking per game, and it works very well. It's been shown to work very well. It's the system that has been used over a long period. But they don't. They're overly protective of their back catalogue and of selling their old games because selling them in the new format is bad for business? That makes no sense to me. How does republishing your games in a new emulated format that has been proven to work over the time not make sense, unless you hate money? Alright, moving on. They shake customer confidence with clockwork regularity. Take the 3DS launch, for example. It was overpriced when it was launched, and then a few months later they relented and dropped the price. They apologised profusely to people who had been scalped by the original fee, but they didn't refund the difference. They just gave some very quickly ported GBA games to those people. This is the company that says that the 3DS isn't powerful enough or something to play these 3DS games. Within about 3 or 4 months, they ported 10 GBA games as well as 10 NES games to the 3DS. What can you say? They then immediately announced the 3DS XL, so if their fans had waited, not only would their console have been cheaper, but it would have had a bigger screen, and for a while people begrudgingly accepted, but when they did, they revised the hardware entirely and created the new 3DS. So now, if you don't want to upgrade, you can't play the new spangly games. Please understand. What? Then you have the fact that they go after anybody who has the audacity to make their money on YouTube playing video games, or even worse, someone who does reviews. Now, reviews are a protected class under the DMCA because critics must be free to say what they really mean, and yet they're still getting their potential revenue stopped on on something that's time sensitive, let's not forget, because you've only got a small window after the game launches to get the most of your revenue, as I understand it from what Total Biscuit has said. And the DMCA claim they file, which is wrong because although they own the content, it's protected review, it takes your video down for a month. I'm sorry? Unless, of course, you sign up for to give Nintendo control of the largest portion of your advertising revenue. You give them the control of the revenue and they take the largest portion of it. Why? I mean, no, they take, 35% if you're not a Nintendo network. That's not just a bad faith move. That is flat out extortion. If you're making, you're suppressing some of the hugest advertising streams in new media in a way that seems like a money grab, but in actuality earns them very little because nobody's going to take this 35 or 45% deal, whatever it is, in order to do it, so they get no money, they get no free advertising, and what do they get in the end? They get no money. Clearly they hate the money, and they hate their consumer? Because the consumer's obviously the one that gives them the money, so that I mean, this is Angry Joe, naturally. You might want to watch this video if you can find it. It's basically him having to give up on Nintendo because of the way they've treated him and his videos. So that's where I got that there. Final thoughts. Does this really sound like a company that wants your money? They consistently underprovide hardware, they consistently underprovide the software, and they consistently attack their own fans in a sort of nickel and diming way to get not a lot or anything out of it. No wonder you're seeing a massive downturn in profits. I mean, I'm actually quite sad that Shigeru Iwata didn't quit when he promised to, because even since then, you've basically just been making terrible, terrible anti-consumer moves. Well, that's it from me with this rant. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you liked it, you can click the like button or dislike button. Or leave a comment. What do you think? Are Nintendo really as hating of money as they appear to have been over these last few years? You can also tweet at me if you've got any opinions. And don't forget, if you want to see more videos in the future, you can subscribe to my channel. Thanks very much for watching, and see you later.